Hello, I'm Joey Haskins, and welcome back to You've Never Seen, in which I showcase a movie you've probably never seen before. And welcome to part 5 of our DCAU Retrospective, Justice League. The Justice League show had been in development since Superman and Batman were airing. Once Batman Beyond had ended, Bruce Timm and his team started production on the Justice League show, now being produced for the Cartoon Network. Kevin Conroy would, of course, return to playing Batman, probably his best portrayal as Bruce since the original Batman series. He would be the only returning voice for the series. Superman for the series and the next series is played by George Newbern. I actually prefer his voice to Tim Daly's. Yes, Daly's is great, but Newbern has an endearing quality to him that makes him sound a lot more like a farm boy, which Clark is.
Then no one's claimed responsibility?
No. There's more to this than meets the eye.
I'd like to stay and look into it, but I'm expected back in Metropolis.
Another key to the city?
Here, it's a signal watch. Call if you need any more help.
Right.
But in an attempt to make him look older, Clark is animated with a gaunt face that makes him look almost sickly. It's probably the biggest distraction of the first season. The format for the series is also different from previous ones. Instead of one-episode stories, each Justice League episode is a two-part serial since we're focusing on 7 main characters. Episodes will consist of a few or all of the 7 focusing on a problem, whether it be the fantastical, the technical, the mystical, and of course the cosmic. And they would face the cosmic head-on in their first episode. Secret Origins is the first of only 3 three-parters in the series. Clark, having worked with the government to disable all nuclear warheads, is having immense trouble when a bunch of seemingly indestructible aliens arrive on Earth. The answer to his problems contacts him psychically. Breaking him out of captivity, Clark helps John Jones, played by Carl Lumbly, a Martian with telepathy and shapeshifting powers who goes by the alias of Martian Manhunter.
I am John Jones.
Don't take it personally, Sean. He doesn't trust anyone.
A wise policy.
The two of them, along with Batman, try to make a dent in the aliens, but they can't do it alone. But they do receive help in the form of Wally West, the Flash, played by Michael Rosenbaum.
Hey, the big guy's heart's in the right place, but give me a break. I'm the fastest man alive. And even I can't be in 5 places at once.
John Stewart, the Green Lantern, played by Phil LaMarr.
Some pencil pusher in Washington probably decided it should be classified information.
Shayera Hall, Hawkgirl, played by Maria Canals Pereira.
What? There's a time for words and a time for action.
And finally, making her debut in the DCAU, Diana Prince, Wonder Woman, played by Susan Eisenberg.
These omens don't bode well, Mother. Mankind may be facing its darkest hour.
Then mankind will have to face it alone.
How can you say that?
Whatever happens beyond these shores is not our concern.
These 7 together would take down the aliens and save the day. But in order to make sure they'll be ready for another big attack, they all decide to form a team which they'll operate from their space station, called the Watchtower.
What? Like a bunch of super friends?
More like a Justice League.
Batman is a part-timer, but he does appear quite often. It's a great introduction to a series that is mostly very good. The synergy and dynamic of the team is immediately great, and it only gets better with each episode. Now with the other shows, we kind of skipped around a lot because there were just a lot of episodes that didn't leave quite an impact. But most of Justice League is fantastic. And like the others, we'll focus on episodes that are significant, that I personally like, or are important to the story. And with those episodes that are important to the story, I will be going into deep dives of the plot of said episodes, since they'll be brought up later. But let's not waste any more time and go straight into the rest of Justice League. The Enemy Below sees the return of Aquaman. I mentioned in the Superman video that he's played by Miguel Ferrer in the rest of the show. That was actually a mistake. Now he's played by Scott Rummel in both this show and next week's show. But he's still the same apprehensive king who hates the surface.
General Brack, I will consider your counsel, but this is a most serious matter. I must give it more thought.
But Superman convinces him to negotiate with the humans and garner peace to explore the ocean. This leads to an assassination attempt on Arthur's life, which was the work of his own brother Orm, who wants the throne for himself, even going as far as to kill both Arthur and his son. To save his son, Arthur cuts off his own hand, replacing it with a hook one, and reclaiming his throne with the help of the League, managing to agree to be a little nicer from now on. Injustice for All sees the return of Lex Luthor, played again by Clancy Brown, now caught for his several crimes. However, he's got a bigger problem. His close proximity with a chunk of kryptonite he's had for years has given him cancer, and it's terminal. In his quest to get revenge on the League, he teams up with the Ultra Humanite to make his own League. This Injustice gang, along with Luthor and Humanite, would consist of the Cheetah, Solomon Grundy, Copperhead, Star Sapphire, and the Shade. And as if the League doesn't have trouble beating them before, it gets worse when the Joker wants in on the action, once again played by Mark Hamill. Clancy Brown and Mark Hamill are still amazing together, and Hamill actually pulls double duty by voicing Solomon Grundy as well.
Lex, listen to someone who knows. Don't wait. Do it now.
You don't like my decisions? Leave!
And they say I'm crazy.
Luthor in Justice League feels like a fully realized character, and it will continue in this show and the next week's show. Injustice for All is a fun episode with some really good interactions between both heroes and villains. Paradise Lost is the first major Wonder Woman story. She returns to her home of Themyscira for the first time since joining the League, but finds her mother, Hippolyta, and the rest of the Amazons are encased in stone by sorcerer Felix Faust. He blackmails Diana into finding some artifacts for him, which she and the League do. But these artifacts are meant to summon Felix's master, Hades. Felix is killed by Hades when he's outlived his usefulness, but the League does show up, save Hippolyta from Hades, and exile him back to Tartarus. However, Diana is exiled as well from Themyscira for breaking the sacred rule of allowing men on the island. Hippolyta doesn't like giving it, and Diana doesn't like taking it, but she accepts it either way. Warworld sees Jean and Clark kidnapped and placed in an arena-like world run by the tyrannical Mongol, played by Eric Roberts.
A pity. I was hoping to build him up with some preliminary matches, but now I'll have to make an example of him.
Clark manages to rise above the ranks, even fighting Mongol himself. The story is a classic gladiator-type story, and it's a lot of fun. Jean and Clark don't have to worry that much about breaking out. They're being rescued by Shayera and John, who constantly argue with one another and can't seem to get along. John's honor and Shayera's tough demeanor just barely get them to Warworld.
He's got a point.
Great. Take his side.
I'm not taking his side. I'm just saying...
I'm wrong again.
Do you two want a little privacy?
The Brave and the Bold follows John and Wally as they uncover a plot involving a civilization of sentient gorillas. Gorilla City is threatened with destruction by the super genius Gorilla Grodd, who's developed technology to control minds, the Flash being one of the victims of his mind control. He and John, along with Gorilla Chief Solivar, become trapped inside Central City and manage to stop Grodd, but make it so that he can control minds without the helmet he had designed. Not only do we have David Ogden Stiers playing Solivar in this episode, but the late Powers Booth plays Grodd for the first time in this series, and he will play him for the rest of the DCAU.
The age of hairless, simple-minded humanity is over. Today, a new age dawns. Today, Grodd rules.
It's good enough that he's in one of my favorite shows, Deadwood, but to be one of the most iconic DC villains of all time is an extra bonus. In Legends, Jean, Shayera, Wally, and John are transported to a seemingly perfect Earth, in which the Justice Guild of America stops crimes every day. So those who are fans of DC Comics can tell that these heroes, the Justice Guild, are clearly based on the Justice Society. Unfortunately, due to the content of this episode, they were not allowed to use them, and after watching the episode, that was probably a good idea. This perfect world of theirs quickly starts to become suspicious as the Leaguers continue to live in it, and the climax, although obvious, is written very well. A Night of Shadows gives us some great character moments with Jean. He's become tempted by Morgan Le Fay, a sorceress who seeks the Philosopher's Stone, which will grant her power to rule the world, and then in turn give it to her son, Mordred. Jean is a very lonely person, being the last of his kind, but unlike Clark, he had a life and remembers it well, so he falls for Le Fay when she offers to bring his wife and children back. But this does make him unreliable in the mission, and Jason Blood, in his alter ego Etrigan the Demon, makes note of it often. Jean is my favorite character in the series, so I do have a particular liking for him and this episode. The Savage Time is a three-parter in which Clark, Diana, John, Wally, Shayera, and Jean all come back to Earth from a space mission and find it under the dictatorial rule of the immortal Vandal Savage. After discovering he came to power during World War II, the League travels back in time to the 40s to stop Savage once and for all. There, the Leaguers are separated and all team up with different DC war heroes: Steve Trevor, the Blackhawks, and Sergeant Rock. With all their new friends, they manage to save the world and return the Earth back to normal. It's a fun adventure with some great drama and a good ending to Season 1. With the beginning of Season 2, the animation would become much sleeker, and the gaunt look that Superman had was replaced by one much more like his look in Superman the Animated Series. Dwayne McDuffie was also brought in by this point as a writer and producer for this season. But with this season, several plot points would be introduced that wouldn't be concluded until next week's show. Twilight begins the season with the League being recruited by Darkseid, once again played by Michael Ironside. He's come asking for help when an alien force threatens to destroy Apocalypse. Oh come on, this is Darkseid we're talking about. What alien force could possibly bring him to his knees? Oh, yeah, that makes sense. That's right, Brainiac is back, and he's taking over Apocalypse. While Clark, Jean, and Shayera help Darkseid, Bruce and Diana head to New Genesis to seek help from Orion. When Brainiac retreats, Clark's team discovers basically the heart of Brainiac. Everything consisting of him is right here, and this is where Darkseid comes in. He made a deal with Brainiac to spare Apocalypse if he brought Superman to be his new avatar. But Darkseid has already altered the deal, taking control of Brainiac's systems and attempting to destroy New Genesis. Unable to disobey, Brainiac fights the other Leaguers who manage to free Superman and stop New Genesis' destruction, causing Brainiac's base to self-destruct. As the base prepares to blow up, Clark looks to finish Darkseid once and for all, even if he has to die.
Any minute now, Brainiac will explode. And guess what? You're going with him. No, Darkseid. To get off this rock, you'll have to go through me.
You really are a glutton for punishment. Time and again I've beaten you, humbled you. What makes you think today's outcome will be any different?
Because this time, I won't stop until you're just a greasy smear on my fist.
But Batman pulls Superman away with Darkseid still in the base as it blows up. Both Brainiac and Darkseid, two of the most threatening people in the universe, are dead. For realsies. Twilight is probably my favorite episode in Justice League because we get a lot of great action and some great story in this episode. Not to mention that it also has some interesting dialogue between Shayera and Jean, who says that their being outcast makes them very alike. Hawkgirl even mentions she can't find her way back to her home planet of Thanagar. Tabula Rasa has Luthor find a scientist named Dr. Ivo who can help him get a suit that delays his cancer under control. But he only finds his remains and an incredibly powerful android he built. This is Amazo, played by Robert Picardo, whose ability as an android is to copy other abilities. When Luthor figures this out, he sicks him on the League.
Did you finish the Justice League?
No.
Then what are you doing here? Get back out there!
Why?
Because I'm telling you.
That's not good enough anymore.
The B story for the episode, though, follows Jean as he goes a little too far with his psychic powers, heading into the woods to clear his mind. And after saving a missing girl, feels ready to come back to being a hero where he greatly helps in the fight with Amazo. You see, Amazo is designed to adapt to the people he fights, but he also evolves, meaning he's indestructible, practically unbeatable, and completely immortal. Once he takes Jean's mind-reading powers, he discovers that Lex has been using him and evolves so much he can heal himself when Lex activates the bomb in his head.
So small. All of you. And so meaningless. There's nothing I want from you anymore. None of you has anything to offer me now.
Now having conquered both Lex and the League, he considers them beneath him and heads off into space to evolve more. Only a Dream starts with a small-time crook, John D., given ESP powers to go into people's dreams, calling himself Dr. Destiny. He's able to take control of the minds of half of the League and even kills his own wife. Seeing the fears of several Leaguers does help humanize a lot of the ones we haven't seen emotional scenes for yet. And Dr. Destiny is a good villain, played in the series by William Atherton. We also get an excellent performance of Batman from Kevin Conroy in this episode.
See, the closer I am to someone, the stronger I get. I'll be able to go into your brain, even if you're wide awake.
My brain's not a nice place to be.
What's that stupid song going through your mind?
It's what's keeping you out, Johnny.
A Better World reveals an alternate Earth where Lex Luthor had become the president and, for reasons, kills the Flash. This causes Superman to kill Lex in the Oval Office and basically take over the world with the rest of the League, becoming the Justice Lords. 2 years after that, the Justice Lords look at the normal Earth with their Flash and Lex still alive. Feeling the need to course correct, they lure the League to their Earth and trap them there while the Lords poses the League on the main Earth. The League escapes and takes a look at what this Earth is like. Everyone is scared of the Justice Lords and nobody can even say anything bad without being arrested. It's a world that seems like a paradise but is incredibly sanitized.
They'd love it here, don't you think? Who? Mom and Dad. They'd be so proud of you.
The League manages to get back to their Earth, but the damage has been done. With the League realizing they've got to be smart, they team up with Luthor and manage to take away all of the Justice Lord's powers, sending them back to their Earth. Luthor would receive a full pardon for his actions and now considers that he'll be going into politics. This episode would have many implications for the rest of the season and for next week's episode. The Terror Beyond puts a spotlight on Solomon Grundy. He's taken by Aquaman and DC's resident mystic Dr. Fate for reasons unknown to the League. Demanding answers, Clark, Diana, and Shayera would interrupt their incantation, leading to a monster being unleashed. In reality, Dr. Fate and Arthur were trying to stop an ancient deity from being released and destroying the world, and since as both the League and Grundy would find out, the zombie is a conduit of a lot of magical energy, and it takes a lot of magic to take down this god. A god which Shayera would reveal her people once worshipped. And the reason why Grundy is doing all of this is because he's discovered his own origin and wants his soul back, only doing it unless Fate promises. Shayera, Grundy, and Fate confront the god head-on, Grundy getting the closest, but at a great cost. After receiving a fatal blow, Shayera defeats the god for Grundy. Having gotten along during the mission, Shayera comforts Grundy as he dies.
Do you think Grundy's soul is waiting for him?
Grundy, I don't believe...
Yes, it's waiting for you.
Then Grundy gets his reward.
With excellent performances from both Maria Canals-Pereira and Mark Hamill, this episode is well worth the watch. Secret Society forms a new team of villains to take on the League, this time led by Gorilla Grodd. Grodd's also been slowly altering the minds of the League, enough for them not to notice, but enough to think that they need to re-examine their dynamics. As they get harder and harder on their problems and who needs to do what, the Secret Society grows stronger, consisting of the Shade, Sinestro, Parasite, Giganta, and Killer Frost. But they need to get their 7th member, their X-Factor. And guess who's back?
Mud? Living mud.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the final member of our secret society, Clayface.
Ron Perlman returns as Clayface to round out the team.
What kind of guy would lock somebody up and keep him as if he was property?
Edge was sick, honey, but you don't have to worry about him anymore. Nobody has to.
And by this point, the League's been so affected by Grodd's mind attacks, they're at each other's throat and practically disband the League. As they're caught and placed on display for the world to see, it's the Justice League versus the Secret Society. Although the Society is defeated, the League still meant everything they said to each other. Now back together, they decide to be better and move on. It's the first time the team has problems, and it's done pretty well with a great mirroring between the heroes and the villains. Hereafter takes the series a step further, when Metallo, Calabac, Livewire, Weather Wizard, and the Toyman cause Havoc to try and kill Superman, it ends in a fight with the League. In the struggle, the Toyman's machine seemingly kills Superman.
Superman go bye-bye!
The world goes into mourning and holds a funeral, and everyone shows up. Even Luthor shows up. But Bruce doesn't go because he doesn't think he's dead. The League is trying to move on, looking for a new member, and guess who shows up?
What's with all the long faces, Justice Dweebs? It's like a wake in here. Lighten up. The answer to all your problems has arrived. Since we're going to be working together, you can call me Lobo.
It's Lobo! The main man introduces himself as the newest member of the League, much to the chagrin of everyone else. But he manages to help them out in a conflict and even takes down Calabac. But just as the League is off to their best era with their hottest new member, we follow Superman, who's still alive because duh. Jokes aside, the second half of Hereafter that follows Clark is really good. As it turns out, he's been sent into the future where the Earth was destroyed by Vandal Savage, who's now the only human left. Since he regrets being a jerk, he helps Superman in exchange to stop him back when he destroyed Earth. Clark heads back to the past and there's much rejoicing, and they manage to stop Savage. But more importantly, Lobo is kicked off the team. Come on! No love for the main man? Anyway, Hereafter is an awesome episode that shows how much people love Superman. The episode Wildcards is the last time we'll be seeing the Joker in the DCAU. He's planted a bunch of bombs around Las Vegas and challenges the League to stop it before time runs out. But the League has to deal with Joker's new set of goons, the Royal Flush Gang, who here are a group of metahumans taken from their homes and manipulated to work for the government. The first incarnation, much like the Batman Beyond one, consists of King, Ten, Jack, Queen, and Ace. But while these are new members, their voices may sound familiar to you.
The food's a lot better since we signed on with the J-Man.
I like his style. Joker's a class act. Don't get me wrong. These guys give good backup, but they don't call me king for nothing.
A real genius, that one. I am the most powerful, and one of the most powerful.
The gang are individually played by Scott Menville, Kari Payton, Greg Kipes, Tara Strong, and Hendon Welch, who play Robin, Cyborg, Beast Boy, Raven, and Starfire in the Teen Titans show, which was airing at the same time. While they're all pretty dangerous metahumans, the important one is Hendon Welch's character Ace, an incredibly powerful psychic whom Joker uses as his ultimate weapon.
I know what it's like to frighten other people. That's why I'm not afraid of you. I'm the only one.
The crime is of course classic Joker, and it leads to some great action scenes. Wildcards is a fitting end to Mark Hamill's Joker in the DCAU, which I'll explain a little further next week.
Yoo-hoo! Batman? I know you're up there. Oh, there you are.
This episode is also important as it finally says out loud what has been teased for the whole season, a romance between Shayera and John. Comfort and Joy is the only one-part episode of the series, and it's a Christmas episode. And it's really good, following 3 different perspectives on the holidays. Shayera and John, now open about their feelings, spend the holidays together with John celebrating his way, the Earth way, and Shayera celebrating her way, with a bar fight on an alien planet. Wally is playing superhero for a bunch of orphans trying to get a rare toy, but he ends up running into the Ultra-Humanite who is sympathetic to the holidays, and we get nice moments between the two of them. But the best part of the episode follows Jean, as he spends Christmas with Clark at his parents' house, in the process recognizing the beauty of Christmas and putting his own spin on it. Comfort and Joy is a beautiful episode that really tugs at the heartstrings, before the show decides to rip them out. We're approaching the finale of the series, and I've subtly mentioned a lot of stuff with Hawkgirl. They've planted little hints of her origins and motives throughout the second season, while the 3-parter finale, Star-Crossed, answers all your questions about her. Out of nowhere, Shayera's people, the Thanagarians, come to Earth, seeking help in their ongoing war against the Gordanians. The League and the leaders of Earth cautiously agree to help them, but their suspicions turn out to be right as the Thanagarians, after changing Earth's defenses, take over. Shayera shows her true colors and the League is captured. After they inevitably escape, they regroup at Wayne Manor and figure out a plan to take the Thanagarians down. But that's when Shayera shows up. She discovered that her people are building a machine which could destroy the Earth. They take the info, but they're not receptive to her, especially not John. While Clark, Diana, and John try to shut down the force field protecting the machine, Bruce, Wally, and John retake the Watchtower and use it as a weapon, Batman steering it out of orbit to take down the Thanagarians' Earth-destroying machine. John and Shiera are able to disable the force field and the Watchtower crashes into the machine, destroying it, saving the planet. With the Thanagarians defeated, they leave Earth, leaving Shiera behind as exiled from her race. But the real challenge for her is when the rest of the League decide whether she should stay or not. Before the League can make their decision, Shiera makes it for them, resigning from the League, now with no family from her old home and none from her new one, thus ending the series. The production team for the series was unsure if the show would be renewed for a third season, so they made Starcross into the perfect finale. And perfect it is, but Cartoon Network did want a third and fourth season, but wanted Justice League to be rebranded, this time with an even bigger league, so a completely brand new show was created. We'll talk about that next week. With Weston Media Center, I'm Joey Haskins, and I'll see you all next time for our last episode in the DCAU Retrospective, Justice League Unlimited.